Alrighty, guys. Good afternoon to you all here. A happy Sunday, July 20th, 2025. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And we do got some things to talk about for today on the weather agenda. We do have the tropics we're still watching here as we are currently watching a system in the southeastern portions of the Atlantic here. Got a very, very low chance of developing. Not expecting anything super, super crazy out of this system here. In fact, it may not develop at all. We'll kind of watch the conditions deteriorate here as we see Saharan dust moving off the coast of Africa. You can actually see that blob of dust moving here across the Atlantic Ocean here with our tropical wave back down here into the major development region is what we like to call this. Another little wave behind this as well. We'll start to kind of watch these waves come off the coast of Africa as we get closer through the peak of hurricane season. Here is typically where we see the most activity at. Currently, we're also still watching the shot at maybe a small invest to maybe develop again in and around the Gulf as we watch that same system that moved through last week kind of wrap around the United States again. We'll kind of talk about that here briefly in a minute as well. Other than that, most of the United States are pretty quiet. You can see the swirling high pressure system up there into portions of the Bermuda area. Other than that, we'll be keeping you guys updated on the tropics. We got some severe weather to talk about our major pattern, our major heat wave that's going to be coming to the United States here over the next couple of weeks, and we'll kind of go over that and kind of go from there. I will let you guys also know I don't plan on having live coverage today. Very, very small scale event today. If we need to get on, we'll be on standby as always today. We'll probably have a weather update later on tonight, but other than that, the next couple of days we'll probably have lesser live stream coverages because there's not going to be too much to cover unless we get more of like a sporadic damaging wind event or something like that over our top of our ridge going through much of the week. It's going to be a hot week. It's going to be a gross week. Make sure y'all stay hydrated, drink water, limit yourself outside, make sure you wear sunscreen, all that stuff, etc. Just some key factors as we see the hottest temperatures of the year as we go into the next couple of weeks here. Looking at the United States as well here, we are also watching a pretty quiet trend down here in the southeast. Got some clouds down here, some thunderstorms maybe down here into southern Texas. Other than that as well, an upper level low that's going to be bringing severe weather today to the Ohio Valley, another piece of energy up here in the Midwest, and another piece up here into the Northeast. So 3 different areas we'll be watching today for severe weather. And we'll go ahead and kind of break down what we're going to be seeing that outlook here for you guys down for today. And we'll start out here with a triple barrel slight risk is what I guess like we call this here, as we do have a situation up here in the Northeast today where we have a damaging wind threat, a small hail threat, and a tornado threat up here into the Northeast. This goes from eastern Pennsylvania all the way up to Maine. Marginal and slight risk level 1 and level 2 for you guys there. Same thing applies back down here into the Ohio River Valley. Another system here with an isolated tornado threat, damaging wind threat, and hail threat. And then another same setup up here, mostly large hail in the form of 2 to 3 inches in diameter along that slight risk here from Billings, Montana, back down into Nebraska and Kansas and South Dakota and North Dakota with a wind threat and a low end tornado threat as well. That tornado threat today, 3 different 2%. So we've got the one over here in the Dakotas and down into Nebraska and eastern Montana. Isolated chance of seeing a tornado. Same thing applies to eastern Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and down into southern Ohio, including Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Louisville, Kentucky. And then we've got another one up into portions of Maine and Boston, Massachusetts. So if this tornado threat does materialize this afternoon, we'll be on standby coverage for you guys as always. We'll keep you guys updated on that. Just be weather aware if you're in these areas for today. The main threat today is also going to be the wind threat. We do have the threat for damaging winds in all 3 areas of winds up to 70 miles per hour and a hail threat both in the Northeast and back up here into the plains where we do have that hatched hail threat there in that black outlined area that includes Valentine. We've got Rapid City just outside of that there, Billings and that. So you guys can see it shot at seeing up to 2 to 3 inch diameter hail. We saw that yesterday with our severe storms. Tornado threat yesterday didn't really localize or materialize too much due to lack in low level shear. Chances were there, it just didn't get itself together quick enough. So we saw lots of large hail yesterday. That'll be the same theme today. And then outside that hatched hail risk, we do have the threat for 1 to 2 inch diameter hail. So we'll walk about and talk about what that's going to be looking like here in just a minute. We'll get to tomorrow as well. And we do have another risk zone for severe weather tomorrow, a low end marginal risk again back up here into the plains, and then another marginal risk from Kentucky back down into the southeast. We'll start to see that big heat dome ridge set up. You can see that gap in thunderstorm activity down here into Texas, Oklahoma, where we'll start to see that high pressure set up where temperatures are going to eventually exceed 100 degrees for much of the next week here, really 2 weeks more than likely. Now, tomorrow we do have a small tornado risk as well. We've got that here in southern North Dakota and South Dakota. Wind threat at 5% for winds up to 60 and a hail threat at 5% as well. Wouldn't be shocked to see a slight risk be introduced to the plains later on this afternoon, so we'll see what they do with that. And then we get to the day 3 outlook for Tuesday, and we do have another marginal risk again as we see a high pressure be building down here with a troughing pattern on top of that ridge, allowing for severe weather to flow up up to the high plains. So we'll be watching that as well over the next couple days. So not a lot of big days of severe weather, these low marginal slight risk days. Could we get an enhanced stress day maybe toward the middle of the week? We'll see, as a more potent trough may make its way into the picture later on toward the middle and end of next week. But as of that, guys, the big story is going to be the heat, and we'll talk about what that looks like here in just a second. I want to go ahead and play the radar out here so you guys can see the 3 different areas that we're seeing severe weather in today. Showers and thunderstorms will start to initiate later on this afternoon between about 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and go to about probably around sunset. You can see scattered thunderstorms across the northeast here. Wind, hail, and an isolated tornado threat will be possible through about 8 to 9 p.m. and then maybe even some showers and thunderstorms and maybe some low and severe weather back down into southern Ohio, West Virginia through about 11 o'clock tonight. We'll go to the Ohio Valley and take a look at what you guys have here. And once again, the same story is going to be isolated supercells later on this afternoon. Some clusters of storms producing winds up to 60, 70 miles per hour between about 3 o'clock this afternoon and about 10 to 11 p.m. tonight. Most of that should start to die down as the sun sets and we go into the evening and overnight hours here with an isolated tornado threat still possible here anywhere in that 2% tornado risk that we were talking about here a second ago. So southern Indiana, southern Ohio, Cincinnati up to Indianapolis, and then back into southern and western portions of Illinois here, and even into eastern Missouri, we could have an isolated tornado threat through about 10, 11 p.m. tonight, and then eventually that'll be fizzling its way out as more thunderstorms evolve through the overnight hours, allowing for lesser of a severe weather threat there in the Ohio Valley. We'll get up here to the plains and talk about what we're going to be seeing up here in the Dakotas, Montana, and Nebraska. Thunderstorms will be initiating later on this evening here. We see supercells merging off of the eastern Montana, North Dakota line there. Big question mark on if we're actually going to get storms to initiate here. We could have a little bit of a capping issue this afternoon. So if storms were to break out this evening into tonight across the South Dakota, Nebraska, and Wyoming area, large hail will be the main threat with a brief isolated tornado up into North Dakota and South Dakota. But some models are signaling really not a lot of convection, or at least attempts at convection, but a capping inversion potentially holding here. So something we'll watch for. Sometimes capping inversions can break. Sometimes they don't break. So if something were to happen, like I said, we'll be on standby for stream on that. Now, I want to talk about the biggest picture here and what we're going to be seeing here. We'll spend most of our time on this video during this segment here, but this is what we're going to be seeing with our overall pattern. You guys can start to see there is a low pressure system down here into the Gulf, which is going to allow for maybe some tropical moisture, some showers to return back down here into the Gulf states later on toward the end and middle of next week here, where we even could maybe see some type of tropical entity potentially developing, and it's very, very low chance right now. National Hurricane Center has not got anything highlighted on it, but we're watching it slowly here. But regardless of that there, that low will eventually start to meander and then eventually kind of fizzle its way out. We'll start to see that heat dome build here. You can see troughing over top of our ridge, allowing for another big high pressure to develop once again here in the Ohio Valley. This is really going to be the main area here where we're going to see that heat locked in. So Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, down into Tennessee. This is where the hottest temps are more than likely going to be at through much of the week here, as we see that troughing kind of meander over top of the ridge there. And this is where we get toward the end of next week, where we are going to watch again for another tropical system here, potentially a low moving its way to the west side of Florida here, maybe getting into the Gulf. If National Hurricane Center needs to, they will highlight a region for potential development. Right now, we're just kind of watching it. Some models have it, some models don't have it. So not any time to freak out or talk, about a hurricane or any of that stuff, but something we are watching very, very closely here. And then as we get toward the end of the weekend here, that high will break down. So it's going to be a pretty brief and weak high pressure system. But then we get into next week, and this is where I think our big heat dome is going to set up here. And this is what's going to last for longevity of the rest of the month and maybe even into the first period of August here, where we'll see that high set up over the plains. This is where the Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska area, you guys are going to see those triplet actual air temperatures and those heat indexes. Some of the models are outputting 110 plus degree heat indexes, which is just insane. Some of these areas haven't seen that in quite many years, so something we're going to have to watch very carefully going into next week. Very, very dangerous excessive heat. But then you have the troughing on top of that, and typically when you get troughing on top of a ridge like this, you're going to get severe weather, mostly in the form of damaging winds, if not derecho-like setup. So if you're in the upper plains in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, we have to watch on top of that ridge and down on the south side of the ridge here, because a lot of these events flow underneath it, that they will move around the high or on top of the high or east of the high. So we'll have to watch that going into the following week, the last week of July. So not really this week, a big severe weather week. We'll have spurts of severe weather, but it's that following week of July, that last week into the first week of August, that I'm really watching here for the uptick in significant severe weather, potentially in the form of damaging winds. And you can really start to see that ridge build and build and build. We'll start to see some northwesterly flow back on the Ohio River Valley, and then that ridge will attempt to maybe break down as we go into the first week of August. And this would be something right here. We haven't seen a mega trough ejection in many, many, many weeks. Probably going back to the late spring before summer started when we started to see this, and this could start to pivot. I know this is over 300 hours out. We're going to watch it. We'll, see if things trend or not. But if something like this were to happen, this would start to allow more robust severe weather, those outbreaks, those severe weather outbreaks, maybe even some, tornado outbreaks. So I do think that fall severe weather season will eventually start to enter the picture at some point. Might wait till the end of August or September or October. But this is something I'm watching very closely here, because if something trends like this, we will have a busy, busy period going into the month of August. It's not something I'm excited to talk about, but this is something we'll be watching very, very closely. Like I said, we haven't seen a mega trough ejection, or at least a potent trough, in quite many weeks. It's probably going back to May when we saw something like this. So we'll keep you guys updated on that there. I do want to also show you guys the temperature anomalies, just giving you an idea. The oranges and the reds are going to be those higher temperatures, those higher heat contrasts. The blue will be the cooler temperatures here, so you can kind of see where things are going to be at. If you're on the West Coast, you're going to be more than likely below average here over the next couple of weeks here, as we see, or the couple days into the couple of weeks here, as we see those temperatures kind of downtrend, as we see that big high pressure building back over here into the plains. And you typically, where you see that cold and warm air meet, you're going to get severe weather, and typically that'll make its way up here into the high plains. And then we see that ridge building into Thursday and Friday up in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley. And then we get into next week, and you can see just bright, bright, bright oranges and reds here. I mean, we're talking temperatures are maybe 15 to 20 degrees above average here going into the final week of July and first week of August. So heat will be here. The summertime will definitely be here, guys. You can even see those darker purples popping up here. Something to really, really, really watch for, as we could see some very, very dangerous heat making its way toward the end of July and first week of August, and even some cooler temperatures back up here in the West Pacific again. So I don't think severe weather will be too prominent for much of the rest of the month. We'll, like I said, have these day-to-day severe weather events, more than likely these mesoscale days, until we get to the end of the month here. But high pressure is really going to be the biggest thing. I'll just show you guys some of these heat indexes here before we kind of wrap this video up. But you'll see those whites popping up. Those are triple digit heat indexes, the 100s all the way to 105, 110. I mean, this is going to be through much of the next couple of days. So if you were exercising, I would definitely do that in the morning or the afternoon. If you have gardening, stuff like that to do, being outside with, definitely either do it in the morning or late afternoon. I'm going to have to go outside and get our stuff done today. But just going to be a barrage of excessive heat really over the next 2 weeks or so, before we kind of start to see maybe a different pattern change, if that. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. Be safe, be weather aware. I might have a live stream tonight for you guys. It just depends on how things go today. But other than that, this will be a video for you guys to have for now, and then we'll have a new one tomorrow out for you guys on Monday. So other than that, guys, be safe, be weather aware, and we'll see you on the next one.